He hasn't got like Jack said last week. He hasn't used the phrase soccer yet. I've logged in and used MyFitnessPal for 587 days, I think it was, in my streak.
Wow. Welcome back to Lose to Win, the podcast with myself, Jack, Josh, and Ben. How are we doing, chaps?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, nice to hear your lovely dulcet tones again this week.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Looking forward to this week as well. So I think what we'll do is we've got a treat for some of the listeners, or for every listener, to introduce somebody that we've that's actually reached out to us within the community, the wider community of Man v Fat, that wants to join us and have a chat. And we've got loads of questions for him as well. So we'll dive straight in. So welcome, James. James, how are you?
Good afternoon. Good evening, in fact, guys. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. First up, well done on the podcast. I've been listening since the very first episode, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's so great and encouraging to hear all the different stories, and about Man versus Fat Bournemouth, and really amazing. And
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's quite surreal because, like I say, I was listening to you guys on the way home from the office today, and so your voices are very familiar. And now I'm talking to you. So it's it's exciting.
Welcome, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us. What we do is we want to get stuck in quite quickly with these sorts of things. So I want to talk to you about your Man v Fat journey and things like that. But first, as a little icebreaker, and so everybody else can get to know you like we have so far, is we want to talk to you about your love for football. And we'll start off by finding out who your team is. Who's your favourite team?
So it's going to be a bit of a a first for the podcast, but I support a team who win a lot of trophies. So
here we go.
I'm a Manchester City fan. I'm from Manchester.
I can tell by the voice, actually. Yeah, they're picking up on the accent.
Yeah. All right.
I love how Manchester City fans have to qualify that. Before I start, I'm not a glory hunter.
Exactly. I mean, if I was a glory hunter, I wouldn't have started supporting them 44 years ago when I started going to watch them. So, my dad's a City fan. His dad's a City fan. It's something that I never really had a choice around. I started going to matches when I was 3 years old, and like I say, it was almost like it was just going to watch City, and then they just trotted out random opposition every week, and it wasn't like there was another team. It's always been Manchester City, I absolutely love City. It's one thing throughout my life that a constant thing that I've always been obsessed with and loved, and going back to Main Road, and started going in sort of mid '80s. Watching City, it's changed. Football's obviously changed a lot since then, the last 10 years, even the last 6 weeks at the end of last season were absolutely phenomenal. But I'm a Manchester City fan. So I'm meant to go through like my highlights or best moments or best players.
Next thing we'll jump on to who's your favourite existing or past player. Who stands out for you?
Yeah, obviously City have got a very, very up and down history since I've been going to watch them. So the sort of first players I remember quite fondly, sort of late 80s, David White, Niall Quinn. How old are you guys? You probably don't know these guys, do you? How old are you guys?
I recognise the name. I'm 33.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm late 40s, dude, so I know where you're coming from.
Okay, you know what I mean, yeah. So David White was, Manchester, came through the academy at City, and he actually played a couple of games for England. He missed a couple of sitters, and then his career sort of went downhill from there. But yeah, he was a sort of early hero of mine.
Niall Quinn was massive, mate.
Niall Quinn was incredible. He was actually the player, first name on the back of my shirt. He was the player I had on the back first of all, and then obviously City sort of struggled and were in this sort of for a number of years, went down through the divisions. Players that stand out there: Uwe Rosler went on to be a manager at Brentford and some other places, and Georgie Kincladze as well. it's unfortunate for him that one of our most talented players coincided with the lowest points in our history. And then obviously, there's a bit of recency bias, I suppose. I love Sergio Kun Aguero. He's someone that obviously through that moment in 2012 will always be a hero to City fans. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to remember that one, isn't it? Yeah. And then recently, obviously, Haaland. There's something quite special about watching Haaland and watching him score goals. He's a special talent, special player.
Yeah,
I heard you talk about the Ballon d'Or stuff last week, and yeah, I mean he should have won that, shouldn't he? Really, I think. But yeah,
I think he thinks he should have won it as well. Judging from what I've
read. Yeah. What more could he do? I don't know. Is there any more? What more could he do? Well, I don't really know.
Just make Messi retire first, and then then he'll win it
every year after.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, like a full range of players. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously. I mean, I go what my animals are called. One of my cats is called Sergio. One of them's called Kevin. Kevin Doggy Bruyne. That's my dog. Sorry, Kevin Doggy Bruyne. He's a Labrador. And my other cat's called Pepe. So that's obviously after Guardiola. So yeah. All of those stand out. It's hard to pick one, isn't it? But if I had to, I'd probably say Aguero, just because of that moment.
Well, I was going to ask you about your memory. Oh, Jack, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Asking about, I guess it is going to be that 2012, is it?
Yeah.
Again, it's such a hard one. It's such a hard one to pick out. I mean, like early memories of going to watch City, around Main Road, cobbled streets. A lot of horses about back in the day of football, many more horses than there are these days. And I guess, like probably first away game, I don't remember what it was, but that feeling when, your team score standing at the time, everyone was standing when I first started going, and just kind of getting hugged off random strangers, like going away to Coventry 2-2 in the FA Cup, getting a hug off some random guy when we equalised, when we took the lead. Things like that kind of stand out. There was one game at Villa Park. David White got 4, went 5-1 on a Wednesday. And although I'm from Manchester, say again, I kind of spent a lot of time growing up in the Midlands. So, going to watch City beat Villa was always special because a lot of my friends at school were big Villa fans. Yeah. There's one game that kind of is a sort of badge of honour for City fans, which is York City away. So that was in the league. That was when we were in the third tier in 1999. I think it was just before Christmas in 1999. And every City fan claims that they were there. And even though there was only a crowd of 7,500, and most of those were York fans. But I was there in the York end. We lost 2-1, and that coincided with the lowest point in City's history. That would have been 98 before Christmas, because 99 obviously then we got to the playoff final. But yeah, again, it's hard not to steer away from recency bias. So the big ones, obviously, FA Cup final 2011, first trophy for 32 years, I think it was. I've actually forgotten now, 35 years it might have been. Actually, there was a banner at Old Trafford. I'm sure you remember. And then obviously since then the Aguero moment was, just in terms of sheer joy. Before VAR, could never really be eclipsed in terms of a single moment.
I think you owe Super Hoops a few quid for that one. To be fair, I think we get that one.
Gibril Cisse in particular.
And
Joey Barton.
Yeah, Joey Barton.
Yeah, Barton getting sent off.
Yeah. I mean that was what an incredible end to a season, right? I mean
it was a great game. To be fair, it was a great game.
I mean, it came down to goal difference, didn't it? And earlier in that season, we went to Old Trafford, and I went to that game at Old Trafford when we won 6-1, and ultimately, that's what won us the league. We won it on goal difference. So, all of those things.
Everybody watching it, or everybody that's kind of associated with a team, a dog in the fight, will just remember that moment as a really special moment.
What it was!
I remember sitting with my wife, and she hates football. And she was sat there. I was kind of like explaining the permutations of what was going on and how important it was, and the fact that United had already finished, and Fergie and the team were stood in the middle of the field at Sunderland, wasn't it? I think, and they were expecting to win it, and thought they'd won it, and then suddenly up he pops. It's just a moment that I will never ever forget.
Yeah, Phil Jones's face I mean, it's a picture of the best of times. But then it was just an absolute delight. I'll never ever tire of watching that back, and the Martin Tyler commentary, absolutely incredible. But obviously last season as well, like the last 6 weeks of last season were awesome. And because of I've recently had a little boy. He's 18 months old. He's asleep in the other room at the moment. Fingers crossed he stays that way. I've not been going to as many games as I normally do. But towards the end of that season, I got some special permission from the wife to go and watch a few. Went to Istanbul. Went to the match in Istanbul, and that was also a very special moment. Got to spend time there with my dad, my brother, my nephew, my uncle. What an incredible weekend that was. Yeah. We're there now.
Impressive. Very. And then the fact that you, I often take exception to fans that are armchair fans or Johnny Come Latelys, and you're certainly not either of those. The fact that you go to games and been to games and supported them through the thick and thin. I think you deserve to be able to be there and tell the story of it and enjoy those moments. So fair play, mate. It's really impressive, and long may it continue as long as it's fair and all above board, and there's no point deductions.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we don't mention the alleged breaches, of course.
No, I think somebody will mention it eventually, but by that time the lawyer will have them in knots anyway. They won't be able to do anything about it. So fair play. What I want to do, mate, is dive into the Man v Fat side of things now. So if you could give us an idea of how long you've been with your club, which club you're with, what sort of weight you've lost, and what your success stories are, but also what may have been hurdles or challenges along the way that are worth noting and talking about.
So I mean, I turned 45 this year, so I've always been overweight, like my entire life. Even as a kid, there were times. There's been times throughout my life where I've dropped quite a bit and I haven't been as overweight, but I've always been overweight, probably topped about somewhere between 120 and 125 kilograms. I don't really talk in stone anymore, but there's quite a lot of stone, isn't it? That so everything in Man vs Fat is about kilograms, isn't it? So I've moved into the metric world. So I've always struggled with my weight, like and the things I've been able to kind of used to mitigate that over the years is I've kind of gone through it sort of rounds of getting into exercise. I like playing football. Obviously, I love football. I've got into running at times. I've done a few half marathons in that time, and when I've been training for one, I've lost a bunch of weight. When I got married, had a target there and lost a bunch of weight there. And got into a bit of cycling and stuff like that, but it's always come back on. So I've probably, before Man vs Fat, the lightest I got to was about 100 kilograms. I was never really able to break that 100 kilogram barrier, and I think I just about 4 years ago, I got diagnosed through a routine medical check with high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And that was basically due to my size, at the time, and that was a bit of a kick up the arse, and it prompted me to get into running and to try and get fitter. And I dropped about I dropped about 100 kilograms again, and I wasn't having to be put on more blood pressure medication, which was the concern initially. And they gave me a 10% chance of having a heart related incident in the next 10 years with the cholesterol and my weight and my blood pressure. So it gave me a bit of a kick up the arse.
Wow.
And at a time, 1 in 10 is, it's pretty high, right? I mean, I put 30 quid on City at 13-1 to win the treble last January, and they did. So it was more likely at that point than City winning the treble. But it got me to a point where I'd lost that weight. But then COVID happened, right? And I know this obviously will resonate with a lot of people. It kind of took away my routine. I was running back partway from work. It took away a lot of my motivation. I ended up with like 4 beer subscriptions, I think, somehow at the end of COVID. I just, at one point you couldn't get any beer, and then I was like, oh, the local brewery's doing one, right? I'll get that one. Beer 52, right? I'll have a bit of that. I'll get one of these pumps, like these, I can't go to the pub anymore, so I'll get one of these beer pumps. He ended up with like four beer subscriptions and just drinking every night, pretty much. Not being conscious of what I was eating. I've never thought about calories, how many calories were in something before. Never ever. I just ate whatever. And even when I was doing a lot of exercise, I think actually perversely I was eating more. Because I just thought, well, I'm doing exercise, so I can eat whatever I want now. And I used to I still do weigh myself every day, not like the chap who's doing it in the morning and the evening, but I've always weighed myself every day, and I was never seeing the results. But so yeah, then I guess, well, actually I found out about Man vs. Fat about 4 years ago. No, longer than that. 2018. I went back to the Midlands to for Christmas one time, and one of my friends up there had lost a bunch of weight, like loads, like 25 kilograms or something. He was like, I was like, what have you been doing? He's like, Man vs. Fat, you'd love it. It's really competitive. It's football. Sign up, sort of thing. So that's basically the first thing I did when I got home that night. But there were no clubs around me, or I didn't think there were any clubs around me. So I got this, paid £1, and then just didn't think any more of it. That was back in 2018. And then January 2021, so 2022, so January last year, it was coming out of, obviously COVID had finished, all the restrictions were off, football was back, crowds are back, whoopee, all of that good stuff. And, my wife also was pregnant. We were expecting our baby in May. And I got an email saying there's a club opening in Sutton, which is, about 20 minutes down the road, and just prompted me to sign up. I had no real expectations or targets about what I wanted to do. I just kind of went into it with an open mind, and signed up there and then. And I think at that point, I knew straight away when they started encouraging and incentivizing the food diaries, the calorie tracking. A couple of weeks into doing Man vs. Fat, I was like, I'm going to lose a load of weight with this. I've had a Fitbit for years. I've always been focused on the exercise, but I started using my Fitness Pal, and it showed me what was in what I was eating and what I was drinking. And I was like, this is the missing information. Now I know how to lose weight. It tells me what I can have a day. And as long as I keep that tracking up and I keep understanding how I stay in a calorie deficit, I'm going to lose weight this way. I remember telling him at that point. And so that was April 2022. And then I started about, I think officially about 115 kilograms, Man vs. Fat. And so now, what are we now? November 23, I'm now 81 kilograms. So
wow.
In that time, that is, my math is pretty bad. It's over 30 kilograms. It's 33, 34 kilograms.
Amazing.
And yeah, I mean, I hit maintenance after about a year of doing it, just under a year. So February this year. And this is the first time I've been not overweight in my whole life. And yeah, I mean, that's the kind of initial overview of those things. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask how tall you are?
Sorry.
Go on.
Do you know if I ask how tall you are?
I'm 6'1".
Yeah. Okay. So your maintenance will be almost identical to mine then, because I started at 125 something, and I'm 6'1", etc. And so I gather mine will be around 80 odd. So I don't know what your maintenance was.
87.4.
Yeah. So I imagine mine will be quite similar then. I actually didn't know. I was just using it for reference. Apologies.
Okay. Yeah. 87. So I'm quite a bit under maintenance now. I'm still, I'm about a stone under maintenance now. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's and then so yeah.
A stone under maintenance.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, about
Dude,
that.
That's bonkers. So what's made you carry on then? If you got to that point and you have done as well as you have, what's the thing that's kept you going?
So there's two things. There's two things really. The first one is health reasons. So like I said, I didn't really go into it with a specific target. What had happened over COVID and putting on more weight is, in order to mitigate my blood pressure and cholesterol issues, I was put on more medication. So that was the easy way out for me. I was like, okay, fine, I can carry on what I'm doing, drinking as much as I want, eating as much as I want, and I'll just take more medication. So that's what I was doing. But then when I started losing the weight, all my metrics improved. My resting heart rate, the Fitbit gives you. I got a Fitbit. Fitbit gives you like a fitness score that you can look at. Not just that, but my energy levels improved. Everything got better. I feel like I got more energy and more zest for life than I've ever had. And coinciding with a newborn, that's obviously a good thing.
Yes, definitely.
But also during that, I then noticed, because I got blood pressure monitored, that my blood pressure was dropping. And so started off with conversations with the doctors, which had always been, my blood pressure is going up, I need more medication. Suddenly it became, well, I've lost 10 kilograms, I don't need as much blood pressure medication anymore. And they were like, well, we never have these conversations with people. We don't really know what to do. Once you're on them, there's a stat, I think it's about 90% of people stay on them for the rest of their lives. Something like that. Wow. And so I think I was on about three or four different blood pressure ones and one for cholesterol. So what happened was they were like, well, we can't take you off them straight away because your body's got used to them, and it's not safe to do it that way. Liver issues could happen, and kidney problems, and things like that. So we're going to start phasing you down off them, and so that's what I've been doing, since then. And so I guess my objective to keep me going from a health point of view is to make sure when I come off all of the blood pressure medications, which I'm very close to doing now, that my blood pressure is at a healthy level. That's my kind of driver. But on top of that, what I sort of I guess I had a bit of a passion for was like helping other people as well. So I was a player at Sutton for 4 seasons, and then I became a captain. Maybe it was 3, and in the 4th season I became a captain. And in that when I started becoming a captain, I was very passionate about passing on what I'd learned and helping other people. And was very successful as a captain in there, and got a lot of thanks and gratitude from people who were part of my team. But not just that, I was trying to help everyone else at the club as well, because it's all about sharing success. Absolutely. And sharing things that have worked and working, and just trying to advise people as best as I could. And then more recently I moved clubs into Sunbury to become the assistant coach there back in September this year. And so I guess I want to keep setting a good example, and just keep, it helps me stay on the right path as well. Like by kind of talking about the things that work well for me, it reminds me that I need to keep doing these things, and I need to make keep not fall back into bad habits, essentially. And so I guess it's those two things. One is that the kind of the primary one being the health reason, and then the second one being that I like the kind of the coaching side and the helping other side, kind of setting that good example. And I guess ultimately with my boy recently being born, I want to make sure that when he's a bit older, I'm still able to play football with him. He's fair
play, man.
He's shown a bit of a talent already. He's pretty good. Like he's very tall for his age.
He's one.
He's 17 months. But people say he's very good. He's obsessed. His first word was ball.
Okay, good sign.
Or it was like, well, it might have been daddy. So it's daddy on ball. So this is a good sign. He's left-footed. Right, he's left-footed.
Useful.
Yeah, only 1 in 10 people are left-footed. So he's already like in the, he's already in a rare category there. Yeah, gifted. He's blonde-haired. I mean, are we comparing him to Erling Haaland at this point?
Yeah,
is that too?
Does he have this kind of Norse god look about him?
I've got a feeling it's a shame he's not a few years older, because he could be the ready-made replacement for Erling.
I was going to say, you're going to go into Man City's academy just as Erling Haaland retires.
Yeah, that would be tremendous. But no, he is actually genuinely, people do say he's quite good. Like, I mean, he's taking run-ups, he kicks it. A lot of kids just pick up the ball.
Yeah,
he hasn't got like Jack said last week, he hasn't used the phrase soccer yet. So as well, that's
also good time.
I'd only just got over that.
That's also a good sign as well. So I guess those things combined have kind of kept me going. And I want to also hit my 30%.
Right. Okay. So can you do that though? Well, you can't score the goals, but now you're in maintenance. But I suppose personally, you still get that achievement of hitting your 30%.
That's right. Yeah, you don't get the 3-goal milestone bonus for that once you're in maintenance. I hit my 25 when I was in maintenance.
Fair play, man.
So I am keen to just, it'd be a nice way to kind of finish the sort of the loss process at that 30%. Come off the blood pressure tablets. Get Project Haaland into the Man City academy. Perfect. Perfect.
I was about to say, you absolutely killed me when we were chatting and you sent me some photos of you and your lad and you said Project Haaland. It's absolutely cracked me up. I see so many videos of like Project Mbappe and things like this, but I've never heard of Project Haaland. But very, very funny. Did tickle me. It's, I love the passion with it all. It's all so good, mate. Really impressive.
Yeah. Apologies. Sorry, I was going to ask you, what's your Olga? Do you see yourself staying at the club then long term, despite maintenance? And because obviously, I guess as an assistant coach, there's an element of that anyway. But just I don't know if you've got any plans afterwards. Have you got any ideas of what?
I think so.
What is after Man versus Fat, if there is anything?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, I'm 45, so I know that I can't play competitive football forever. And one of the things I've actually got bad knee. I snapped my cruciate when I was about 20, so I've never been the most mobile of players. And when I snapped my ligament, I started playing in goal. So I've reverted to playing in goal predominantly now, anyway. Although I do play outfield occasionally. There's where we are now and where I was before. There's a kind of goalkeepers at Man versus Fat are quite rare, aren't they? Everyone wants to have a run around. Everyone wants to do all of that. So I guess there's a limited time by which I can actually continue to play football. I am very passionate about the coaching side of things, and I do have a day job, unfortunately, so I can't just stop doing my day job. But I think ultimately I would like to branch into something more around wellness and well-being and weight loss and that might look like, I don't know, setting up another Man versus Fat club. I don't know what the process is for that, but there's definitely potential around where I live. It's half an hour each direction to get to a club, which doesn't sound like a long way, but when it's only like 4 or 5 miles, it's
pretty compacted around there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty compared to Southwest London. So that's something I've thought about. Like I say, I don't know what the process is for that. Obviously, I'm an assistant coach at the moment, so moving into the coaching side of things. I mean, the coach we have at Sunbury is fantastic. So she joined at the same time I did, and she's very much more focused. Well, she's a proper wellness coach. She's got a lot of expertise and in that, and also on the kind of mental health side of things, she specializes in that. And I'm learning a lot from her. She's absolutely fantastic. And we make quite a good team because I'm very much someone who's been through it and lived through it and has got various tips and things that I can pass on to people. And I really like, as we said in the intro, I'm really into the stats and the graphs and the charts and the really complex coaches challenges that we've put in place. And she's there on the sort of more rounding things off and supporting people who are kind of taking life-changing steps, really. I think it's easy to forget, I joined Sutton when it's first formed, so everyone was in the same situation, as in, everyone started at the same time. So with this new club now, we're in Sunbury, we're growing the numbers and new people are coming all the time. And it actually can be quite a daunting thing for people to take that first step in the journey. And I'm really seeing that side of things, and it's really opening my eyes to a lot, and actually how it's really made my passion even more for Man versus Fat, because there's people who come and who are very open now about mental health problems that they have, and they were opening up. And Siobhan, who's the coach, she does a mental health newsletter called The Whistle. She sends that out. It was every week, but we've moved from 4 teams to 6 teams, so there's a lot of focus on that. So we're doing that. She's doing that continually. But she recently did an article with one of the guys who was happy to open up about some of his challenges and the fact that he'd not really been interacting with anyone for a year. other than his close family. And he's come along to Man vs. Fat, and it's opened the doors to a lot of people being very open about their struggles. And so that side of things is something I'm really passionate about, right? So where it's something that's changed someone's life. I mean, Man vs. Fat has been the trigger for me to change my life, and it's had so many positive benefits on that. And I think I am super passionate about Man vs. Fat, and that's one of the reasons I love your podcast, because it's something I can listen to that really resonates, and I'm really interested in learning more about people's own experiences, the psychology of weight loss, and clearly everyone is different. There is no quick fix. There is no one size fits all. No. There is no magic wand. There's lots of different things, and the guys who've been on here before have spoken about the things that have worked for them and the things that haven't. And everyone's very different. Everyone's got different reasons that they're overweight. It could be bad habits they've fallen into over COVID. It could be bad habits that they've fallen into over 5 years, decades. Decades of bad habits. And how do you try and go about undoing those and getting fitter and getting healthier? It's really, I find it very fascinating. I find it really interesting.
That's a good thing to ask you, actually. How did you start your journey? What sort of things did you do to start that kind of weight loss? What triggered it off? What sort of things did you decide to cut out or change? What were your sort of top tips?
Sure. I think it's right to say that there is like what works for me isn't going to work. What works for me isn't going to work for everyone. And I think the key thing is, and the key thing I've learned speaking to people is you take the bits that resonate with you, and then you apply those, and then you adapt those, and then the more people you speak to, the more things you can find out, the better, really, because something lands with me that doesn't land with somebody else. But I think there's a few key principles that I always try and think about. And try and not instill in people, but try and get across to people. So the first one I think is being open-minded, right? Being open to change and being willing to try something different. Because if you think about it, people who are overweight, they've fallen into bad habits, and if they keep in those bad habits, they won't be successful in their weight loss journey. And I think that's a really important thing to think about and to try and remind yourself of. Because for me, for example, if I'd have just I'd still be on tons of blood pressure medication. I'd still be drinking 3 or 4 nights a week. I'd still be eating pizza, pot noodles, takeaways, all of these things. I would be, I wouldn't be making the changes that I'm making. So one thing, and that can apply to anyone, right? But being open to change can mean lots of different things, right? For lots of different people. I think that the key thing, to sort of follow on from that is with anything in life, really, the more you put into something, the more you get out of it in the end. There's very few things in life that are kind of cut the corner and you get there quickly. It's hard. Like some people have kind of come on and said it's easy, or they found it easy. I've not found it easy, but I've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed the process. I think so. I guess I've been quite obsessed with it. Really, it is something that I've made a priority. I've made time for myself and my health and my well-being. Friday nights, going to all the clubs I've been at, I've been on a Friday night. Now, my wife didn't like that to start with, but I said, I kind of, put my foot down. I was like, this is for me, this is for you, this is for our son. I love playing football as well, right? But I'm making that time for myself to dedicate to this. It's given me some positive results already. I'm going to do it. And then I think, with those two things in mind, it's a sort of general, I guess, philosophy or sort of more kind of, philosophical type things. The thing I always come back to, and is absolutely imperative for me, is to lose weight, you've got to be in a calorie deficit, right? That is the basic principle. You've got to burn more calories than you consume. That is it in its simplest form. Now, that's very hard to do, right? And that's very hard if you've been in years and years of bad habits to change those habits. But that's, for me, was when I started doing the food diary. And actually, something flashed up on MyFitnessPal earlier. I've logged in and used MyFitnessPal meticulously and obsessively for 587 days, I think it was, in my streak.
Wow.
And I know you guys talk a lot about food diaries. And I know some, I think, Josh, you were saying that you sometimes you do it, but you want to look ahead to 10 years or 20 time, and, you don't necessarily want to be doing one. And, for me, I enjoyed doing it, actually, because it's been fundamental to me changing my relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see it as a chore. I think of it like, I don't know, how long does it take me to do? So I do the way I've always done it is I add my calories in as I consume them, there and then. So I get a very real time view of what my daily goal is, how many calories I've got left for the day, and and as soon as I started doing that, it started making me think about the rest of the day, and it made me conscious of what I was consuming, and also how many calories were in something. So I've used that as a foundation in its basic principles. The adding everything I've consumed over the last 587 days into my fitness pal has completely helped me change my relationship with food. And the reason I still use it is because what I've found in that process is I really like making food. I really like trying new food. I've got into something, there's a Instagram page called Board of Lunch, and it's a guy who's done 2 books. One is a slow cooker thing, and one is an air fryer thing. So they're very quick recipes. There's a healthy air fryer book. It's called a healthy slow cooker book. I've really got into making a load of his recipes, and they're not like, I just had one earlier. It was like chorizo eggs. So it's egg cups. So you get a baking tray, put chorizo in, put some mozzarella in, put some eggs in, put it in the air fryer for 8 minutes, 10 minutes end to end. You've got like these beautiful crispy chorizo runny eggs with a bit of avocado. It's so filling and it's so nice. It tastes like it should be about 1,000 calories. But for me, keeping it, and it's about 400. So learning things like that all the time give me the tool set, I guess, or the library of food that I can go to that I know is going to keep me healthy and it's going to keep me in a deficit. So I would always say, the first thing I would always say is take that time, make the time for yourself to do a food diary. And like I say, it takes 20 times a day I probably use it on average, 30 seconds per time to add something in. What's that? 10 minutes a day. That's like, having a shower. You have a shower every day. You don't have to have a shower every day. No one says you have to have a shower, but you do it because it's good for you. Wiping your ass after you've been to the toilet. No one's saying you've got to wipe your ass after you've been to the toilet, but you do it because you don't want to be dirty and smelly, and it's good for you. Washing your hands. How long does that take? Well, 2 happy birthdays, wasn't it, or whatever it was? But like,
oh god, yeah, I remember that from COVID.
Yeah,
flashbacks.
Yeah, flashback. Yeah. So putting your seatbelt on when you get in the car, I see it as like just a thing that I do now. Like, and I don't see it as a chore, and I don't actually have a problem doing it in a year's time or 5 years time or 10 years time. I probably won't do it then because I'll have learned. Because every time I use it, I'm learning. I'm reminding myself how many calories are in something, and because I'm having it when I consume it, I've got that immediate connection between that food was nice, and I feel satisfied, and it was that many calories. I've got that immediate association with it there and then. And then, like I say, that then allows me to then look at how many calories I've got for the rest of the day. What else can I do with those calories? And I've got this whole library of things now that I know are good for me and are going to be, going to keep me within my goal. So I would say that is super important. I would strongly recommend, and going back to the things I've said before, if you're going to make a change, you think about making a change. The change I would recommend for most people to make is meticulously and accurately do a food diary every day. Try it for 2 weeks. If it doesn't work for you for whatever reason, you haven't got the time, or you're not doing the barcode scanner feature, or the app, you don't like the app, or try it for 2 weeks. See if it works for you. See if you've got the results. And then what happened for me was I then started to see the results, and I started to feel the results, and I started to, it became self-incentivizing.
Yeah.
But I think, and the final thing is, I'm sorry, I've rambled on for ages. But the final thing is, I think I'm going to do something that I can do forever. I'm not going to, and this is where everyone's different and has different ways of doing it. I'm not going to do a crash diet. I'm not going to do fasting. I'm not going to do Huel or whatever. I'm not going to do broccoli, chicken and broccoli, and whatever. I'm going to do things that I know that I can keep. So I'm going to make these changes, and I'm going to make them one at a time, and I'm going to make a small change, and I'm going to try and keep that change. And sometimes some of the changes I made I didn't like, so I didn't stick with them. But for me, that was the really most important thing. I didn't want to punish myself, because I didn't put on weight in a week or a month or a year. I didn't suddenly have a gluttonous streak, and it took a long time for me to end up where I ended up. So I wasn't looking for an overnight fix. I wanted to make sure that the changes I made were sustainable and there's something I could keep with forever. So an example would be, I like coffee. I love coffee, but I always used to have milky coffee, and I had milky coffee. I know one of the guys, maybe it was you, Ben, was talking about, the skimmed milk, was it, in the past?
Yeah.
So I would have 4 lattes a day, and then when I didn't even think about how many calories were in it, but it's probably about 250 calories per latte, milky latte. That's 1,000 calories a day. That's the difference between being in a deficit and not.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I didn't then go from, okay, I'm having 4 a day to cutting it out. I went from, right, I'm going to have, so I started moving to espresso. So I have 1 espresso in the morning, and a couple of milky coffees. Then it became, that would be over a couple of weeks. And then it would be, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it would be 2. And now I only exclusively drink espresso. I don't have milk in my coffee anymore, but I didn't make that change over a week, because I didn't want it, because if you throw too much change at something, it becomes it's not just applicable for weight loss, it's applicable for lots of things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you throw too much at it, not all of it's going to stick. But what I wanted to make sure was I make that, and then I would ask myself, can I drink espresso forever? Turns out, yeah, actually I enjoy it a lot more. And there's basically 0 calories in espresso. So I've gone from 1,000 calories a day on coffee to 0 on coffee. And that would be the thing I would recommend, is making these incremental small changes over time so that they stick. And there's nothing that I don't have now that I used to have. I have everything I always had. I just have it in a more controlled way. So being open to a change, and just trying things out, like, and the final example I'll give, and there's many others I could talk about. Again, it depends on individual taste, but my wife has always been into plant-based meat stuff, right? And I used to turn my nose up at it completely. I was like, she used to cook it smelled nice, but I was never trying that. Why would I do that? Meat is for men. Meat is what it's all about. I'm not a vegan. I'm not going to eat that crap. But I was looking at some of the calories on it, and the equivalent calories on a plant-based sausage versus a normal sausage. You can have three plant-based sausages for a normal sausage. And that was the quick maths that I worked out. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it then. I'm gonna try it. And it turns out nowadays, with the quality and the variety of plant-based stuff, those plant-based sausages are really nice.
Yeah, it's much better, isn't it?
I can have 3 of them. So it's a win-win. It's like I'm full, I'm filled. It's probably not as nice. I would enjoy like slightly more the taste of a real sausage, but it's not 3 times nicer than a plant-based sausage, and it's not good for me in the same way. So things like that. And then Beyond Meat burgers is another example. They're really good. And they're like 250 calories per burger. They're very filling. There's Vivera. There's like a shawarma kebab type thing they do. That's one of the, so I still eat meat, but I'd swap out 1 meat-based meal a week for a plant-based meal.
Yeah.
And that would be something I would then have in the fridge. If I come home after a few beers, I'll knock myself up a tortilla wrap with a Vivera kebab and a bunch of lettuce, and it's about 400 calories versus going to a kebab shop, which is probably about 2,000. So I'm just putting little things in place and having this tool set or this library of foods that I know are okay for me, and I'll just call on them as and when. I don't call on them all the time. I've kind of moved away from some of that stuff now a little bit, but I know I can go back to it if I want to. And so, yeah, those are the things really. I'm sorry, I've rambled on for such a long time there.
No, don't worry. It's so much
Josh will
information.
edit you
It's
down,
so
mate. It's
good.
all right.
Yeah. But I think the main thing is, just to finish off, the main thing is, for me, it's all been about the food, the consumption. I know people talk about exercise and the football, it's been purely about the food. I actually probably do less exercise now than I used to do before Man vs. Fat, in terms of I don't really go running anymore, very, very rarely. I went running on holiday, hurt my ankle, so I'm not doing that again for a while.
Running's bad for you, mate. When you get to our age, running's bad for you.
Yeah, I know. Just trying to run around a football pitch is enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I actually probably do less
football
exercise.
as an end goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the kind of that's it. Really. Sorry, I interrupted one of your questions there, Jack. Sorry.
No. You started to. You mentioned that you've been rambling on. Honestly, don't worry about that. I think you've covered so much, and I've written down a few questions which inevitably, in your inverted commas rambling, you've covered off anyway. So the one was about kind of what was your guilty food pleasure, and then the other one was your golden nuggets. And it sounds like, as kind of summarising, you're suggesting that tracking is the start of the beginning of the right results, if that makes sense. If you're doing that right, and you're understanding how a calorie deficit works, you're onto a winner, aren't you? Yeah,
absolutely. It's the foundation. It gives you that data to get into a deficit. And like I say, for me, it helped me change that relationship with food. I think naively, before I started doing it, and this is bad, right? But I never thought about how many calories were in something. It never crossed my mind. Not once in my 43 years before joining Man vs. Fat did I think about how many calories were in what I was eating. And that sounds really bad, right? And it is bad.
I think it's quite common, to be fair, mate. I think there's plenty of people who don't have any idea about how bad for you food is, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that this country is facing in its obesity crisis, is that people genuinely don't know. You know, you look at the calories that are in a Big Mac, and you'd be absolutely horrified. Yeah. And yet people have McDonald's every other day, and you think,
I got these big trays of pot noodles in from Amazon, because they were cheap, the big ones, the Bombay Bad Boys, and I just knock two back a day, and there's like 800 calories in each one, and not just that, they're full of salt and sodium and crap, and it's only when I started scanning them, I was like, I'm not buying these anymore. And actually, MyFitnessPal is really good. Sounds like I'm on commission for them, but it flashes up.
Where can you get this MyFitnessPal?
Is it a subscription service? And Man City. You picked up the things I enjoy. But it flashes up like, oh, this food is really high in sodium. Your sodium goal for the day is X, Y, and Z. Really high in salt, or really high in saturated fat, and that I just find that really educational, because like I say, every day I do it, I find something new out about food. So maybe because people's tastes change over time. I don't eat exactly the same thing I ate even a month ago, and it's good to have variety. I don't really believe in just eating the same things all the time. It's boring, right? And there's so many different things out there. So yeah, I can't impress enough in terms of, for me, like, and not just for me, because I've seen it at the teams I've been at and the people who've had success. And obviously Man vs. Fat incentivize food diaries for a reason. They've got the data. I did some stats with the guys at Sunbury recently, which showed that something like I can't remember what it was, but let's say there was 15% of the guys were accurately doing food diaries. The Sunbury club has been through a few difficult times. They've had lots of player turnover, lots of coaches turnover. They lost a lot of motivation. It hasn't really been focused on weight loss. It's been purely focused on football. So they lost the thread of that a little bit. But even with that, I was able to demonstrate through a quick graph, a quick chart, 15% of the players who were tracking accurately every week had lost 72% of the club weight, for example. And actually, if because I could harp on to them about why food tracking is important. I show them by data that they're giving me that I've got that access in the system. I can see that data. you're telling me, you're demonstrating it yourselves. The guys who come along and have a food diary, and some of them write it down on paper, some of them have it just written in notes in a calendar, some of them do it very accurately and meticulously in MyFitnessPal. But as long as you're doing something in that way, that's why Man vs. Fat incentivized that. I mean, the quote they use, 42% more likely to achieve a goal if you write it down. But for me, like I say, 15% of our players who track lose 72% of the weight. So you're so much more likely to give yourself that foundation for success if you do that. And obviously that's I think you mentioned you're trying to get one of the guys from Man vs. Fat HQ on, and that would be an interesting conversation about what is it that triggered them to incentivize food diaries, because there's many different things they could do, right? But that's the one that's the one, in addition to weight loss, that's the one thing that they incentivize, isn't it, across the board? And I think.
But I think they did massive research into it, didn't they? And they realised, like yourself, I mean, they realised that the high percentage, the more accountability you have, and the more you understand and realise. We've spoken before about secret calories, the secret ones that you don't write down, and they're the deadly ones, and having that accountability, as you say, and writing it down makes a massive, massive difference, because you might have a little chocolate here or a little sweet there or an extra biscuit there, and by the end of the day, you might have had an extra 500 calories, which if you're trying to do a calorie deficit diet like yourself, that can scupper you every day, and you don't even feel, and you don't even know where it's come from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You're just kind of wandering in the dark a little bit, aren't you? If you don't have that information.
It's interesting though, because I know
really,
I spoke
really
to Steve.
interesting stuff.
Sorry, Jack. Sorry, I jumped on there. I was speaking to Steve recently, and it's Man v Fat are stopping the paper diaries. They're not giving them out anymore, which I think is a real shame, because I've always used mine, and I've got every single week, and we've been doing it for how long now? Nearly 2.5 years, and I've got every single week on paper, and that's just something that's worked for me. So I think it's a bit of a shame, but there must be stats around that. It must be that the majority of people now are using things like MyFitnessApp and other apps and noting it down electronically. I think certainly a lot of the guys in our club who have been successful use things like that. Tim Winrow's one who sort of religiously puts his stuff in, and he's been really successful. I mean, he's yo-yoed a bit over the last few seasons, but when he's really on it, and he hits his targets, and he does it specifically the same way that you've done it, is through calorie deficit, and that works for him. So he'd be a good advocate of that, definitely. Shout out for you, Tim, if you're listening. I don't mean he listens to this, to be honest.
He does, yeah. He got his £10 voucher for the
of course,
for the quiz question.
No, I think that's the only reason you listen to it.
For him.
He's a Macamini. Do anything for money. Fair play.
Amazing. I think what we'll do, James, is we'll let you go now. I know that you've got the little man on your own tonight, and he's fast asleep and can wake up any point. And I'm conscious that we don't want to keep you too long for anything that might come like that. And without ruining Josh's night, I think there's an entertaining game of football that you might be keeping half an eye on. I've certainly been doing the same as well.
I have been watching it, yes, in the background.
Oh, you have?
Okay.
Yeah. I just had to keep an eye on it.
No, fair enough.
Come on, Copenhagen. I've been to watch City of Copenhagen, actually. Yeah, I've been to watch them there.
Amazing. So, mate, thank you so much for joining us. I think you've offered us so much. What I'll do is I'll share some of your before and after photos that you shared with me, if you're happy, on our socials and whatever else we do it on, and also some of the digital stuff that you've done for the club around kind of FIFA Ultimate Team cards and things like that. That would be worth other people seeing, and something that I know that as a club we'd like to start looking at and potentially adopting as a little extra that we do. So unless anybody's got anything else to say, mate, I've been sat here scribbling notes. As I say, I've been writing questions down as we go and kind of been ticking them off as you've been saying them anyway. And it's inspirational. And again, it's a different story for us all to kind of take in and digest and appreciate and understand. And it's still really, really inspiring stuff, mate. So well done, keep it going, and well done on doing the assistant coach, I should say, stuff. So well done, mate.
Thank you so much, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And carry on with the great work, and I'll keep on listening for as long as you're going, and hopefully that's for a long time.
Oh, bless you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great to talk to you, buddy. Really good.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks all.
Thanks, mate.
Awesome.
Cheers. Take care.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Bye.
Well, chaps, I think I speak for all of you when I say, well, what a great interview and a fantastic listen. And there are many things in there that I think we can all kind of heed in terms of advice, and from someone who's obviously been there and done it. And obviously on top of what we were saying about his assistant coaching and getting everyone else involved, and he's obviously quite keen on statistically proving things like tracking and that. So, but we've got our own league to focus on for a little bit now. So we'll run into our Man v Fat roundup at Bournemouth, if that's all right with you chaps.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Dude. Let's do it.
Yeah. So maybe we thought there was kind of no way that we could keep up the phenomenal weight losing pace, I should say, for the first 2 weeks, because we lost 22.1 in the first and 31.6 collectively in the second.
That's amazing, isn't it?
But we kind of did. We bloody well did. We smashed it again. So this week we had another 30.1 kilos fell away from our increasingly lithe frames this week, moving the season's total up to astonishing 83.8 kilos.
Crikey.
For context, that last season we lost 185 kilos over 14 weeks. And we were delighted with that achievement, let's be honest.
Yeah,
we're nearly halfway to that and less than a quarter of the way through the season. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's mad, isn't
I know
it?
that comes with a little bit of a caveat that we've got some extra players in the league, but that doesn't take away from the astonishing achievements so far. And it's a bit like
you're bang on.
Yeah.
Just Steve has obviously spread us a little bit thinner with these team switches and how the teams are sat. So that you're right, there is new players in
There's
the
only
league.
a few more players,
but I think there's not many really. If you think about it,
they've been
it's a
incentivized.
refreshing impetus, isn't it? Yeah.
People have been incentivized.
I dropped in for the people that aren't in kind of like the captains and vice captains chat. I sent in a very honest message directed to Ben, but kind of for everybody and Ollie particularly, that I know that there's been a lot of back and forth about the Blues, how things have happened, fixture gate, and everything else that's gone on around it. It's been relatively entertaining and nothing short of like an episode.
I'm not used to such controversy. I'm a quiet person.
But I think what I was conscious of is that I don't think the way that I had worded the message wasn't going to sit overly well with everybody in the group, especially if there's new people that don't quite understand the concept. The information behind it. But what you guys have done last season is such a fantastic achievement. Controversy aside, you've inspired us all, and especially my purples that are full of new guys. They got the memo quite quickly, and we explained how good you guys have done.
You will pump the Blues.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind
maybe
of got
not use that word.
We got the mindset that we wanted to win, and you gave us that extra bit between our teeth to win. And that's where that message came. And then the controversy of none of your own doing that came around the fixture gate was just kind of like, pardon the pun for us fatties, but the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And that really made the difference, I think. And
I think everyone's
genuine with that.
I think, and I mean this nice. I think everyone for themselves, for the teams, wants to do well, don't they? And they see what you did last season, and they see, well, we could do that as well. Partly that, but partly a case of, well, we don't want the Blues to do that again, you know. Yeah. So it's an element of both that just incentivizes everyone. I think we had a pretty poor season. I hope the Blacks don't mind me saying last year, but we've smashed it to the start of this season. We're really flying, you know, especially with the weight, and we'll get into that in a second. But
I really appreciate that, guys. It has been difficult. I'm not going to lie, it's been difficult. I mean, we achieved fantastic things, as you said, last season, and I couldn't be prouder of all of them. And everyone worked really hard. And obviously, everyone knows it's nigh on impossible to try and recreate that the season after, because you do have such a massive target on your back. But at the same time, I kind of like that, and I'm really pleased and I'm really proud that people are kind of seeing us as the ones to beat, and they do put a little bit extra in and give us a bit of a kick here and there. And you know, we're big boys, we don't mind. We kind of like the pressure. We've not had a great start, to be fair, but it's always going to be really, really difficult to keep it going. And we've had, you know, a couple of big losses. Billy's obviously one of the biggest. He's injured long term, so he's out of the game. Ruben left us, so you know, it's tough for us. We're not the same team. We've lost Tom as well now, so we're kind of back in the place where more in line probably with all the other teams. In fact, at a bit of a disadvantage in the fact that we don't have any new players, because having new blood come in and new extra weight to lose is always a bonus, and we don't really have that. We do have one. We had a new guy. Jez has joined us. He's a top guy. He's a Sheffield United supporter. And he's a lovely guy. Came for his first game last week, and bless him, he went out and gave his all, and and that's great to have some new blood in.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Yeah. I have noticed, actually. I think that's one thing. And this is where I would say, while there was a little bit of back and forth over it, I am thrilled we've gone to 8 teams, because not only I think we're all finding it quite competitive, not on and off the pitch in terms of scales, but also those extra spaces, we are filling them. We are starting to fill them slowly.
Which is great.
Already. We're only 3 weeks in, and I think we've already had 4 or 5 new players on top of the players that we already moved to begin the 8 teams. So,
well, I hope we get enough to get up to 10 soon, because Christ, 6-a-side is going to kill me.
Yeah, but I will. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I will say though that there's quite a few times where there's the ability to play 7-a-side, isn't there? At least there has been to begin the season so far, from what I can tell. So
6s is tough on that pitch, though. I don't know how you boys find it, but Christ, I struggle.
Yeah, I think it suits us. I'm not going to lie, because I think it's just really open.
Yeah,
we've got a few players in the team who can accurately get the ball from one end of the pitch to the other without any real difficulty. So I think it does help us. It did, at least last week. I think we won 5-1. So we'll come to that now then, shall we?
Nice. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so one thing I'll just say quickly is there isn't really any reason to get complacent, because we've got Christmas this season, haven't we?
We do.
But it's a brilliant start. So, and it's a testament to everyone. Just quickly, there were plenty of goals in mostly close run set of on pitch games, with the exception of ours, I will say. So the unluckiest team, apparently, well, according to Steve, we, as in the Blacks, are the unluckiest team this week, because we won 5-1 on the pitch, lost a massive 10 kilos as a team, more this week than any other side. And although that doesn't matter to goals, we still found ourselves on the wrong side of the result.
Yeah, that's harsh.
Yeah. So we lost 14-13. That was due to the Reds playing their incentive scheme bonus, which was the 3 goals, and benefiting from the only milestone of the night. So back to what you were saying a couple of weeks ago, Ben, about when you've got 2 milestones to try and overcome, it's pretty difficult.
It is really tough.
We gave it a good crack anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's like I was saying, unless you do a 6-0 or a 7-0, but you just missed it. One more, mate, and you'd have been a draw.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I blame myself for that, because I will freely admit I put on weight this week.
Oh, dude.
Week, so, no, I know. So I take full responsibility for that one, and I have done in the group. So there we go. But
it happens, mate.
Yeah. Elsewhere, yellows overcame the whites 11-3, and greens capped off a perfect night. All 9, by the way, of them turned up, and all 9 lost weight.
Yeah, they're going
by turning a pitch draw with the oranges into a 13-9 win. Purples and blues, your game then. So it couldn't be separated on the scales, but, and this is Super Captain Jack here, a late pitch goal from you.
Literally the last kick of the game, wasn't it?
Allowing the new team Purples to edge past reigning champions on the pitch, and overall winning 10-9. So well done there.
Yeah, well done, mate.
Made such a difference, to be fair. And buzzing for it, regardless of how it happened. The result that we needed came, and it was a tough game on the pitch, as the score suggests. But I think my favourite moment was George in goal, screaming the moment it kind of landed at my feet. I think everybody knows me well enough down there that if I get a chance on my left foot,
keep him off his left foot.
There's a few expletives in there as well, to be fair. Did make me laugh. I did have a little chuckle with him after, once he had simmered down a little bit.
You get it all the time with people like yourself, and I'll throw a couple of others. So we got like Jogs and like Micah on the Reds and people like that who can hit it really nicely from distance. So it's the consistent shouts of no shot as soon as anyone gets it in that area. You're just like, oh no, and there's a mad panic.
The other one
I good game, though. It was
my
a good
entire
game.
life is keep him on his right, because everybody knows the right foot is merely for show. And
you do lay it off occasionally with your right foot.
Sometimes, yeah.
Occasionally.
I don't use it enough, to be honest, and I think I'm too far gone to even start practicing. I don't dare try practice with the right foot, so I just stick to it. And if anything, that makes things harder when I'm in that circumstance because everybody knows what I'm going to do. So I have to work harder to create that space to be able to get that shot away or that pass away. But yeah, it was a reward for the team, not for me, and I was buzzing to get that goal as the captain and kind of lead by example on the pitch as well. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Good man. Couldn't lose to a nicer fella.
Oh, I love that,
he
Ben.
says
Thank you,
through
mate.
gritted teeth.
I just love scoring against you boys. Don't I?
I know, mate.
Was it a hat trick last year?
You did do it quite a lot. Yeah.
Well, last season.
So moving on. So we just 3 weeks into the season. We have no team that has a 100% record. We have 5 sides: greens, blacks, reds, purples, and oranges are tied on 4 points at the top of the main league.
Nice.
So there you go. While yellows lead the pitch league, a single point ahead of us, blacks and reds. The scale league is even closer, with greens leading the pack of 4 teams on 4 points, with the 2 others. How does that make sense? Yeah. Am I getting the wrong number of teams?
8.
Yeah. Okay. So I think he's probably, I've got it slightly wrong here. And I said the 2 others are snapping nails with 3 points. So 6 teams.
He's doing it to throw you off, mate. He's chucking in these little Easter eggs for you to find once you're reading it all out.
Like,
I tell you, he's got the lawyers on the case. You're getting a knock on the door soon, a letter through the post.
Anyway.
Cease and desist, copy into
it. 6 players were knocked out of last man standing.
Wow.
Although several grace weeks were lost for those who stayed in. Obviously, I was among them. So there are now 50 players still standing. Anyone with a 100% record, that's 4 weeks of losses, will score a bonus goal this coming week. At the moment, there are 18 players in with a chance of grabbing that potential match-winning bonus goal.
Nice.
Goals.
So that's quite a good one.
It'll be a big scoring week this week then.
I think there'll be some, because there was quite a few hat-tricks scored this last week. I think there'll be quite a few more this coming week. There usually is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Plus the bonus for those who had hat-tricks last week and then get the extra goal bonus this week if they're still lost.
I think week 4 last season was a massive scoring week. I seem to remember. That was the game that we lost to White 7-0 and then we ended up losing by 1 goal because it was like 19-18 or something because of all the extra goals that went on. Yeah, so it could be a high scoring week this week.
One of the only points you dropped all season.
Yes.
Anyway, Phil Crossley of the Reds is our solitary milestone man this week. He joins the 10% club, having lost more than 10 kilos since joining Man v Fat last season, which is amazing.
That is amazing.
It's almost like brushed past the 5% without anything to
wow.
Keep it going, Phil, mate. Maintenance, along with his toes, is in sight.
Fair play.
I'm sure we can already see his toes, to be fair, Steve. Phil also leads the season's first cohort of hat-trick heroes, of which there are 16 hat-trick heroes from this week. I won't name all of them, I apologise, but well done, lads.
You know who you are.
Yeah. New boy Chris Gailey from the Blacks leads the team of the week with an impressive opening loss of 3.2 kilos.
Great work.
Last week's biggest loser, Ian Wood, is the only player to retain his place at the top table. So
super
the list. The list is as follows. So we've got Chris at the top with 3.2. Liam, good man, Liam, at 2.9. That was mad. I actually was in the weight room for that one, weren't we, Jack? And I think you were there. And Steve sold him one by saying he was like up by 2.9 or something. He thought he was 2.9.
That's what you need, isn't it? That's what you need in your coach.
Yeah.
I don't often hang around in there when people are getting weighed. I often nip away, but it cracked me up, and I was straight on to Steve like, how often do you make these mistakes, Steve? Then is this a regular occurrence? Should we be checking your homework, Stephen? And he was like, complete mistake. But Liam was like, are you sure? That can't be right.
Yeah, he was absolutely flabbergasted.
He was like putting his clothes back, put his jacket back on. Like, I can't believe that. Something's gone wrong. And Steve's like, oh no, hang on a minute. It was comical. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Does that mean we need to have a recount for the last 3 weeks? So I think you might have got my weight wrong for the last 3 weeks.
This is it. Who polices the police?
Place to do that, yeah. So next on this, we've got Connor on the Blacks as well, who consistently keeps losing. So he's a
good lad.
2.8 loss this week. Mark Lockyer 2.3. He's not playing for you yet, is he, Jack, on the purples? But he's coming
No,
away.
mate. He's
permanently injured,
yeah,
is Mark.
he's doing.
Yeah,
he's
but
got
he is
bits
a
and pieces
fabulous
going on,
weight
and
loss.
he's injured, and Ben's bang on. He's been all over it and turns up and he comes down and supports. He's not quite ready to play. Personal bits and injuries and some problems and whatever else is going on, but he is the ultimate teammate to have. I was explaining to the Purples, the new guys that were like, weren't necessarily, when's he going to be available, whinging, kind of like, what's the crap with him not being able to play? And I'm like, somebody like that, it's fine. He is so good as a teammate in this format. It's ideal.
He was key to the Reds.
all good.
He was key to the Reds winning when we won the league. He was every week he was there losing weight. I think he played 15 minutes for us all season when we won the league, but he lost weight consistently every week, and he was there every week, and that's what
the nicest of blokes as well.
Yeah, top man.
Yeah. Ian's, and after that was so Mark Lock's 2.3, then we had Ian with 1.8, and then Jimmy, another super black, losing 1.8 kilos.
Wow.
So
this is good stuff.
Yeah,
really
the league
impressive
table
team of the
tells
week.
us this. Yeah. What do you say? Sorry, Jack.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, really impressive team of the week, wasn't it? In terms of the numbers, and as you've referenced how much we've lost this week, it's always going to be a tricky task to get yourself in that top list, join the top table, and these people are doing it, and some are doing it consistently. So fair play.
Yeah, I remember speaking to someone, I can't remember who it was, on the sidelines, not this last week, the week before, and they were saying how they lost like 2, but it was like 1.7. And I was just hearing other people's losses, and I thought, wow, that's going to be a tough ask to get into team of the week at 1.7 kilos. It's mad. Anyway, the league table tells us that there's everything to play for on and off the pitch. I mean, if competing for the title motivates you, then you know what to do. If getting healthier for your kids or your partner, or just as importantly for yourself, motivates you, it's the same story. Just keep building healthy, sustainable habits. And as we've just come off our interview with James, that's what he's been doing, and it's worked for him, and it seems to work for many. So there we go. Small positive changes.
Well done.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah, we've got this, lads.
Yeah, we have, and I think that's proven it. The first 3 weeks of this new season have been exceptional, and the extra motivation of this week of some cheeky bonus goals, as Ben said, it's going to be a high scoring week. Steve's going to have to get his calculator out and
definitely,
and start doing the sums and counting these up. We're very much looking forward to seeing how these goals roll in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool,
well, this is where we would normally finish the podcast, I think, just for time, because we've had a very good interview with James. I say interview, I mean discussion with James. So, but there's lots of that to keep in, and we would like to keep it in. So this may be a little bit longer than normal, but this is where I think we've agreed that we're going to have kind of a lose to win extra time part of the pod, where we move on to some football discussion. But we'll leave it there for this one and come back to us for a part 2.